What's up? What's up? What's up, you guys? Happy Sunday to you. Now, listen, I still ain't figured out how to stream this and TikTok at the same time, but we got another new feature where you guys can see the comments on the screen. Let me know how you guys feel about that. You like it? You don't like it? Is it distracting? All that good stuff. So, hey, everybody. What up, Nay? Hey, Boo. Hey, Kenya. Chanel, Bama, Auntie, Crazy Homebody Girl, Ravine. What's up? So listen, we started talking about this over on my other channel, and I didn't think y'all would be interested in this, but y'all are. And so we here for it. Oh, okay. That's the other thing. That's a YouTube thing. Auntie even said, what do the purple crowns mean? So YouTube now has a thing where I can acknowledge like top subscribers, people who comment, and they like actually track how many comments. Yeah, I got to get this thing off my arm. Every time I think about it, I keep forgetting to get the scissors. Anyway, they track the top, commenters, how many videos you watched, all that stuff. And so you get acknowledged with the different crowns. I can actually go in and change those and make them like pictures and stuff. I'll do that. I'll have to get in there and do that one day. But for right now, that's like, that's a new feature on YouTube. So even if you're not a member on the channel, you can still be acknowledged as somebody who is, a top supporter. Like you comment a lot, you're here, you're supporting all of that. What up, Lexi Boo? Yeah. So for those of you that can see that, that's what those mean. And like I said, I can go in and I can put like pictures like I can do with the like I can do with memberships. No, it's not just my channel. All of the channels can do it. I've seen it in other places as well. I've seen it in other channels as well. No, I did not cut my hair, you guys. I went to the hairdresser yesterday. I got my color redone. You see, I got the roots touched up, but it's probably just curled tight, but I didn't cut it. It's probably just curled tight. It'll fall. Yeah, I know how my hairdresser. I love how she does that. She curls it tight, and then over the week it falls. So this side looked like I slept hard last night. I'm gonna have to bump that up a little bit. But anyway, how's everybody doing? Let me take this off. Hold on, y'all. Let me go into the settings real quick. I gotta take something off. I don't know why I keep yawning. All right, can y'all see me okay? I feel like it's a little dark. All right, let's get into it. So we're going to be reviewing the documentary that was on the Judds. You guys, this was such a good documentary. But so sad and heartbreaking all at the same time. I want to say that I think that the producers, whoever, and I do know that both of the daughters were executive producers, so that probably had a lot to do with it as well. But I want to say that whoever produced the whole documentary, I feel like it was handled in such a respectful way. Like there's a way that you can tell somebody's truth, and it can be an ugly truth, and it can be a truth that hurts you, but also be respectful in how you tell their story, especially since Naomi obviously is no longer here to talk for herself. Hey, Andrew. Hey, Boo. Hey, Sharice, Crazy Homebody, Nitwit. Hey, you guys coming in. So I think I want to say that off the top. They did such a respectful job because baby Naomi was a mess. I think a lot of us too, whenever somebody decides to take their own life, I think there are always questions that people have. And especially when there's somebody that's a celebrity and from the outside looking in, we're like, oh my gosh, they're rich, they're famous, they're this, they're that, they're that. And I think that when you peel back those layers and you see what's really underneath, it's like, oh my gosh, I want some Boldini dog, them things, the Boldini balls. I want some. They look so good. I think I got them sometime. One time I went to his restaurant and I got some. They were okay, but I want some. Lexi cooking down, baby. Lexi be cooking, baby. Next time I come out your way, I know where you live. Next time I come out your way, if you in town and I'm in town, baby, I want you to cook for me. Forget going to a restaurant. I want some of that food, honey, because you be cooking down. Boudin, thank you. I couldn't get the word out. Thank you, Andrea. Boudin balls. I want some. I want some good ones with the cheese. It's got a good old cheese pull, honey. I want some. I don't know if I'm gonna be out your way no time soon, child, but I may. All right. Now I just started fooling with this thing. All right, so let's get into it, y'all. I have a lot of notes, a lot of notes. So for those who do not know, we're talking about the Judds, the singing sensation. They hit the country scene in the early 1980s. I believe their first hit record was released in 1982. I think. I have the years in here. But certainly they dominated the country charts throughout the 80s until the early 90s, mid 90s. And then Winona, one half of the group, she went on to have her own solo success. So we're going to get into it. So there are 4 parts. Part 1 is called A Mother's Smile. So we start off with present day. We see Ashley and we see her husband, child, what's her husband's name? I got his name written down here somewhere, child. What that man's name? Child, is in my notes. When I get to his notes, I'll tell you what his name is. Child, when I tell you I got like 5 pages of notes here. When I get to his name, I'll tell you. But hold on. It's in here somewhere. I'll get to it. Anyway. So Michael is the baby daddy. Michael is one of her baby daddies. We're gonna get to that story. So anyway, it starts off in present day. They are actually in the process, or they have already, when they made this documentary, they had sold the house. They had a really nice house, big house in Kentucky, where she's from. Naomi's originally from Kentucky, and it's a beautiful home, but the husband was like, first of all, it's too big. Second of all, it's too many memories. I just couldn't do it. So they sold the house. So we see the empty rooms, right? I guess the house was either on the market at that point or they allowed them to film, but the house was empty. It was nothing there. And they just started talking about how each room was decorated and how Naomi had decorated each room like herself, and each room had its own like vibe and its own flavor. And they were just kind of going through that. They start letting us know that she battled depression, and there was a particular sun porch in the house. What up, Ebs? Hey, Shay in the city. What's up, boo? There was a particular sun porch where she would literally sit on a couch on that porch, they said, for days at a time. Like, it got that bad that she literally would just not get off the couch. She was definitely in a deep depression and definitely battling that. So they also talk about when she passed away, how there was a note that was found that made the tabloids, some, and it had to be somebody that worked for them that sent it to the tabloids, because the note, it was like a little yellow sticky note, and it said, don't invite Y to my funeral. Right. Well, I don't even think it said to my funeral. It said, don't invite Y, meaning Winona. And I feel like it said something, but it said, don't invite Y. So of course that made the tabloids. And of course, everybody was like, what? Oh my gosh, what could have happened that they wouldn't want Winona there? Oh my gosh. And her assistant was like, first of all, we found sticky notes like that everywhere. She always wrote notes on the side of books she was reading. She had journals everywhere. She had sticky notes. So for somebody to take that one sticky note and turn it into, oh, she didn't want her daughter at her funeral. He said, second of all, we don't know when she wrote that note. She could have wrote that note right after they had a big argument. She could have wrote that note 5 years ago. We don't know when she wrote that note. So for somebody to take a picture and put it out there was such a violation, but also just not fair to Winona, right? But we're going to get into all of that, where they were when her mom passed away. We're going to get into that. So this is how the documentary started. We also are reminded that she chose to do this literally the day before her and Winona were going to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And it was a sister there, a friend of hers who grew up with her who said, listen, that's all she ever wanted. Like, that was her goal. So we all found it to be so sad that this was when she decided this was going to be it for her. And I feel like, I'm going to be honest and tell you, I remember in my mind, what I was thinking was, and I certainly can't speak to what was in her mind. I certainly can't speak to what was in her mind. We just getting started, Yana, baby. We literally just getting started. I cannot speak to what was in her mind, but in my mind, what I was thinking was, if her whole life goal, well, her whole professional life goal was to get to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and she made it, maybe in her mind, it was like, it's complete. Like, it's what I set out to do, I did. And maybe she felt like I can let go now, right? So that was the first thing. By the end of the documentary, I had a different thought, but we'll get to that when we get there. So that was my immediate thought at the time, right? Right. People take one thing and run with it without much context or thought. One sticky note make you do all that. Right. Like, and again, I don't remember if the sticky note said don't invite Y to the funeral or just don't invite Y. But even if it said to the funeral, I still say the same thing. We don't know when she wrote that. We don't know when, what state of mind. We don't know a lot of things. And again, when we get into the complexity of their relationship, it'll make sense that wasn't fair. That wasn't fair. But we'll get to that. Okay. So then they started talking about how she was the life of the party. They said that she was definitely a name dropper. She will let you know who and they show, the thing I love is they show clips. They had so many artifacts in this documentary that again would break your heart, but we'll get to that. But they showed clips of her doing interviews talking about, yeah, I was at Loretta Lynn's house last night. Yeah, me and Johnny Cash were on the phone. Yeah, me, like all of these country legends that she would just throw in these interviews and let people know, yeah, I know that person. Yeah, I'm friends with that person. And her daughters both said, she loved to drop names. But the flip side was she wasn't lying. Like, she really did know these people. She really were friends with these people. She really did hang out with these people. But it was like she had to let you know that she knew, right? So they talked about that. She wrote her first book. So there were a lot of quotes that came out of it. She wrote 2 books. The first book she wrote was called River of Love. No, that was the second book she wrote. The second book she wrote was River of Love, Generational Trauma. And that dealt with her depression. And then the first book was her autobiography, which that first book got her in a lot of trouble. We'll get to that. Her birth name is Diana Elena Judd. She there were 2 girls and 2 boys. So it was her and a sister. And then her brother, she had 2 brothers. The oldest brother's name is Brian. Brian actually died of cancer when they were young. And the brother's death was connected to a lot of mess that went on, okay? While her brother was sick in the hospital, literally dying of cancer, that is when she actually got pregnant. Now, the way she explained it, again, I have to go in order because y'all will understand when we get to the end. But the way she explained it in part 1 was she invited a friend over, a guy over, who she said, listen, he didn't force me. I wasn't violated. However, I was grieving and I probably wasn't making the best decision. She made it seem like it was like a one-night stand situation. Like, I invited him over, we had sex, I got pregnant. Of course, this was the 1950s. She pops up pregnant at 17 and it's a whole situation. So there was a man by the name of Michael Salmonella who had proposed to her, who, wanted to be with her, wanted to marry her. And that's who she ended up marrying. And she said he was the daddy. They got married. She was always trying to get her mother's approval. Well, after she told her mama she was pregnant, they said she came home from school one day, and baby, the mama, yeah, as in the food disease, salmonella. Yes, that's how. Yes, salmonella. Yeah, yeah. Uh, baby, her mama had locked her out and told her that she wasn't gonna have no pregnant girl in her house. So at 17 years old, she went to Michael's house because she was like, look, my mama done put me out the house. You the daddy, what we gonna do? She moved into Michael's house and they got married. She had the baby. She literally had the baby. She literally gave birth during her graduation week. So she did end up graduating from high school, which I remember thinking that's a big deal because my mama graduated from high school in the 50s. And she said that there was a girl in her class that was pregnant and they wouldn't even let her walk across the stage. Like they let her graduate, but they would not let her participate in graduation. So I'm glad that she was able to, graduate from high school because back in the 1950s, baby, it could have went left, it could have went right, honey. But they ended up getting married. She was 17, he was 18. They call those shotgun weddings back in the day. It was a shotgun wedding. And of course, they were young, so they went through whatever they went through. By 1967, Michael wanted to change because they were in Kentucky. Michael wanted to change. He wanted to do something different. He said, let's move to LA. She was like, let's go. So they ended up moving to LA in 1967. And in 1968, Ashley was born. So Winona's birth name is Christine. Winona is not her birth name. They changed her name when they were trying to become country stars. So her first name is actually Christine, and Ashley's name is Ashley. Andrew, you getting ahead of the story, Andrew. You are getting ahead of the story. For right now, Michael the daddy. Okay? Michael is the daddy for right now, but you're getting ahead of me. But no, he's not the daddy. Okay. So they ended up moving to LA in 1967. And what I wrote here in my notes, I wrote, they have real artifacts, videos, recordings, notes. So as they're going through and telling these stories, they're literally showing home videos of them when they're kids. They're literally showing pictures of them when they got married and pictures of them when they got the baby and all that good stuff. I believe Naomi got pregnant in the 1960s, not the 1950s. It was the 1960s. You're right. It was the 1960s, but it was still same concept. But you're right. It was the 1960s because Winona was. She was like 6 or 7 when Ashley was born. So, hold on. Let me check something. Let me see here. Because I have an article that I'm going to read you guys in a minute when we get to that part of the documentary. There's an article I want to read y'all. But hold on. Let me see something. Hold on. Yeah, she was born in 1964. And she was born, her birth name was Christina Claire Salmonella. And it's spelled Ciminella. So it's pronounced Salmonella, but it's not spelled it's not spelled the same as Salmonella. Okay. Okay. You live in Nashville. Y'all gonna have to be driving past folks' house today. Well, I want to be accurate. I want to be accurate, but the 1960s is still sort of along the same lines, though. But you're right. She was born in 1964. Okay, so it's a shotgun wedding. Hold on. Okay, so When Ashley was born, Winona almost fell into the role of sister mommy. And it's funny because Ashley calls Winona sister. Throughout the documentary, she never says her name. She always says sister, sister this, and sister that. And yes, sister was really upset, and sister worked really hard. I found that to be interesting that she always referred to her as sister. She never said Winona. She never said why. She never used the nickname. It was sister. So I guess that is her nickname for her. She calls her sister. Winona said she always felt like an outsider. Like she always felt like she did not belong in this family. And during this time, Michael wasn't home a lot after they had the 2 kids. He was out in the streets doing his thing. And they really were not happy. They were not in a happy marriage. Winona started with the reputation of being difficult from a very young age. As a very young child, she had the reputation of just being difficult. But I can understand that she felt like she didn't belong and she felt like she was the outcast. She probably was difficult. You know what I mean? She probably was trying to get attention. And the thing about kids is kids don't differentiate between positive and negative attention. It's just attention. So she was getting attention, even if it was negative attention. And that's attention she normally felt like she wasn't getting because Ashley was getting all of the attention or whatever. Then I can see where she was difficult. Okay. Eventually, Naomi says she woke up one day and was like, look, I'm not going to keep doing this. I'm miserable. Michael's not happy. He out in the streets doing what he's doing. I'm here being miserable. And she told him she wanted a divorce. So they got divorced and she started doing like secretarial work. She started doing modeling work. She said that Michael was not giving her any child support. She said she called him one day and was like, look, I need some help over here. You've got to help me out. Like, you can't have me out here, you know, like, come on, bruh. And he told her, you should have thought about that before you decided you wanted a divorce. That's what he said. That's what she said he told her. That's what she said he said. You should have thought about that before you decided you wanted a divorce. That's what she said he said. Okay. Now, around this time, Naomi started dating. They say he was a guy from the soap opera. So this was the early 1970s, late 1960s by now. So a soap opera, you know, he was on the soap opera. That's all they ever said about him. And they said she started dating him. And I didn't put 2 and 2 together until later, until I went back to watch this to put the notes together. But Winona said that she remembers, she said it was something about him that she never liked. And she said that she remembered him being on top of her. Now, she didn't go any further and go into any deeper explanation as to other than that. She just said, I remember him being on top of me. And I remember feeling like I had to protect Ashley. Eventually, Naomi broke up with him. I'm going to come back to that. That's important. I'm going to come back to that. Okay. But eventually, Naomi did break up with him. Well, once Naomi broke up with him, then he turned into a stalker because they were living together and stuff. He turned into a stalker and he got an apartment across the street from them so he could keep an eye on them. And one night when Naomi came home from work, he came into the apartment, he beat her up, and he assaulted her. He RAP'd her, okay? And she did call the police. She did file a police report. But they didn't go any further into whether he was arrested, whether there was a trial. Y'all know back then it was his word against hers. He probably said, oh, she just got it. She liked it rough. And that probably was the end of it. But she did file a police report. She did call the police. However, she sort of like, she said they immediately moved. Winona said they moved out of that apartment that night, moved into a hotel, and eventually they ended up moving back to Kentucky. When they got back to Kentucky, man's home mysteriously burns to the ground in broad daylight. Ex-wife expressed her condolences on our. What are you quoting, Andrew? What is that? Girl, what are you talking about? Yeah, this documentary just came on like 2 weeks ago on Lifetime. It is after the mother passed away. So yeah, this is new. Okay. So they moved back to Kentucky. Naomi enrolled in nursing school, and they were living in like this house up in the mountains. Like it was away, it was rural. It was a very rural area. It was away from, it was away from everything. And but there was an older lady who was being very generous in renting them the house as something that Naomi could afford. There was a guy there that Craig Williams. He lived in he was like the groundskeeper. He lived in the cabin out back. He was a Vietnam vet. He was kind of, that's my quote after he told me I should have thought about that before I asked for a divorce. Oh, okay. Oh, you lost me, girl. I was like, what? I was like, huh? But they gave me the impression that her and Craig dated. Let me say something, and I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna be very respectful in how I say it, but I need to say it this way. I feel like they very nicely let us know that Naomi had a lot of boyfriends. I ain't saying she was a hoe. I'm not saying she was sleeping with all them men, but they very nicely let us know she had a lot of male attention. She was a beautiful woman. Naomi Judd was a beautiful woman. Lot of male attention. But he actually took care of like the stuff they needed done around the house and that kind of thing. And that was in exchange for the woman who owned the house and stuff like that. I guess that was his exchange for rent. He kept up the ground, so he was like their groundskeeper. But this is when they got into music. This is when they discovered music because they didn't have a television in the house, and so they spent a lot of time with the three of them. And Craig actually could play the guitar, and he started teaching Winona how to play the guitar. And this is the point where they first started writing, where Naomi started writing. Naomi was the writer. Winona was the better singer, but Naomi was definitely the writer. Definitely the writer. And she started getting into bluegrass and started getting into like the older, the older country music from like back in the day. And that's when they started learning how to do the harmonies. And they actually found a cassette tape in Naomi's belongings. Naomi kept everything. So as they were going through her stuff when they were packing up the house, they actually found a cassette tape that was in a sealed envelope that had not been opened in like 30 years. Like since the 1970s, this cassette tape with her and Winona singing a song on there. And it was so beautiful. They sounded so, and these are songs that were never released. You know what I mean? These were songs that were never released. These are songs that they just sang in their house and that kind of stuff. And it was just so, to see their face, to see Winona's face, to see Ashley's face as they're listening to these tapes. It's like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, though, one day while they were out, the house was robbed. Naomi no longer felt safe. Like she no longer felt like that was her safe space. And they moved. So that was the end of part one. So part two picks up with basically, this is where they first start trying to become singers. They go on the road, and Winona sends Ashley to go live with her dad, Michael. So Ashley is with Michael. Winona and Naomi are on the road. And this is actually when they changed their name. Because remember, her birth name is Diane and Winona's birth name is Christina. So this is when they changed their names to Naomi and Winona. She got the name Winona. It comes from a song called Route 66. And it's the name of a town in the song Route 66. So that's where they got the name Winona from. They were on the road, weren't making a lot of money, but traveling around the country. Ashley is with her dad. They eventually end up in Nashville. In 1979, they end up in Nashville. They're literally living in a motel. Naomi is working in a secretarial pool and trying to get them into the music industry. Country music, of course, Nashville. Ashley catches the chicken pox. This was weird. Okay. the whole Ashley of it all is so weird. I'm not saying it's not true because I believe the story, but it's just weird. So she gets the chicken pox. She was living with her father. She gets the chicken pox. And instead of her daddy taking care of her ass, he sends her to Naomi to get better. So Ashley ends up living in the motel with Winona and Naomi. Winona's going to school. Naomi's going to work. Nobody is there to take care of Ashley. She's literally just convalescent by herself in this motel room with roaches, because they named the roaches, okay? With roaches I was like, what? That was so crazy. I felt so bad for Ashley. I'm with you, Chanel. I felt so bad for Ashley throughout this whole thing because, baby, Ashley been through it. And I want to read. It's funny because now I want to read Winona's book and I want to read Ashley's book now because I'm sure there's so much more that wasn't told. It's only but so much you can say in a documentary that's not even supposed to be. And that's the other thing. I appreciate the fact that they stuck to the documentary was about their mother and their relationship to their mother. And I love the fact that they stuck to that. They didn't go too far off into their own stories. Because Winona had a hell of a story too. Okay. And so did Ashley. And we're going to get into a little bit more of Ashley towards the end, but I love how they kept it right there. Right. It may have been because you have to strip to put on the calamine lotion. I'm grasping at straws to explain that. Child, yeah, you grasping because that's her daddy. Okay. But I get it. You trying. Ashley also talked about this was her first bout with childhood depression. And so she starts talking about how she dealt with depression even as a child, but nobody knew, nobody paid attention, and I think it's a combination of two things. I think one, I don't think we identify depression the same way like in today's world as we would have in the 1970s, right? I don't think that was even language that was used in the 1970s, childhood depression and all those kinds. I mean, we was barely using the word depression, much less childhood depression. But she talked about the first time a man tried to accost her when they were still living in the woods in Kentucky. She said she got away from him, nothing happened, but she didn't tell anybody. And as a result, she was silent for a long time. And then she talked about when she had the chicken pox and how she was left alone all day long. And she said literally all she did was sleep. She was like, I literally just slept. And when I did wake up, the TV would be running. I literally just kept up. I really just kept up with it through the commercials. Like, oh, this show is on. That's the commercial. Oh, okay. Oh, this is the commercial. Oh, okay. You know, it was like, and then she talked about the cleaning supplies. Like I feel like she was saying she got obsessed with cleaning, maybe. I don't know. But she talked about she would see these products on the commercial and then she would just use them like that. Yeah, we're going to get Andrea. You keep getting ahead of me. Okay. But yeah, she was. Andrea's just getting ahead of me, y'all. Y'all know YouTube, child. I need to go back to, I do try to share it out. I forgot to share it out, but I will share it out. I suffered from depression when I was a child as well. Back then, they tried to medicate you for being depressed. Yeah. And I don't even think they use the word depressed. Like, I don't know. But yeah, definitely, Lady D. And I'm sorry you went through that. I'm glad, but I'm glad that you acknowledge it now and hopefully getting the help to process through all of those things. Okay. Larry, his name is Larry. So this is around the time that she met Larry Strickland. She was, while these were going on, she was, knocking on doors with her little demo tape, trying to get her and Winona, trying to get them on. At this point, she's zoomed in on them becoming recording artists, right? So that is the focus at this point for them becoming recording artists. So right, they used to call it sickness or yeah, exactly, Chanel. What you sleeping? Why you sleeping so much? Yeah. They talked about the sexism as it relates to Naomi going door to door trying to get meetings with these record execs. And she said a lot of times, they would be like, oh, we don't have time to meet with you, but if you go away with me this weekend, I'll listen to your tape. Like a lot of sexual harassment, for obvious, we know what it was, right? So this is the 1970s now. She started dating Larry Strickland. Larry Strickland actually was a part of a gospel singing group, and he used to sing with Elvis Presley in his last couple of years. Once Elvis Presley died, he tried to start his own little band, and he went out touring. Now they described their relationship as, almost love at first sight, child. They went on their first date. She wanted him to take her to go look at a house that she wanted to rent for, she was trying to rent. He took her to the house, and, he talked about how she leaned over and kissed him, and basically they was together. They ended up moving in together. They were together. They weren't married, but they were together. He was good to Winona and Naomi. They really loved him, yada, yada, yada. But he talked about they were dirt poor. He said there were times when there wasn't enough food for all four of them to eat dinner. Like, he was like, it was like we ain't had no money. He was like, we were broke. Winona said during this time period, her and her mom, this was the fights. This is when the fights started getting really, really bad. That they even described it as her and Naomi would get into fist fights. They would fight over her doing her chores. They would fight over her not practicing, because Naomi was like, listen, when the break comes, you got to be ready. So we need you practicing these songs. You need practicing your harmonies, practicing your guitar, because at any point in time, somebody could call us and we got to show up and we got to be ready. Now they were performing, they were doing gigs and stuff like that, but they wasn't making no money. Okay. One day, wait a minute, hold on. Some of these notes are out of order because I was writing them down as I was remembering stuff. So I think this is one of the notes that's out of order. So hold on, let me finish doing this first. Wait a minute. Was this before or after? Hold on, let me think. I'm going to just say it. This might not be in the right order, y'all, but I'm going to just say it because I don't want to forget to say it. So Winona said she felt like she wasn't allowed to be a child. And she said that it was during this time that she learned how to self-soothe through food. As you guys know, Winona Judd has always fought with her weight. She's always had up and down weight issues. And so she said it was during this time that she learned to soothe all of these feelings through food, So this is how they got their big break. Actually, I really want to say this happened first. Hold on, y'all. Give me a second. Yeah, I want to say, let me do this first, and then I'm gonna come back. So Naomi was able to get them on this radio show, this like morning show. How like these little shows that used to come on in the morning. It was a radio show. She got them on radio shows where they would sing and they would tell these stories about, like the old time days and, living in the woods of Kentucky. And she built up this persona of them being, from this poor, this really poor background. And then they used to go on this morning show where they would, sing on this morning show, whatever. So she was out there hustling for them, but it wasn't making any money, right? So they were getting, like, these were local shows. These were not like nationwide things. So she was, on these local shows and stuff like that. Naomi was full of ambition and drive. It says she forgot to be a mother. Yeah, she definitely was. She was definitely full of drive and ambition. Okay. So let me flip back to this. So this is sort of how they got their big break. Naomi was a nurse. By this time, she was working in a hospital. She was a nurse in a hospital, and she actually became the nurse of what's his name? Hold on, Brent Mayer. Brent Mayer was like a big time producer in Nashville at the time. Like he used to produce for like Kenny Rogers and all these big country names. And his daughter was in a really, really bad car accident. And so Naomi was one of her nurses and they loved her. They thought she was such a great nurse. And when the daughter was, being released and checking out of the hospital, she, they were like, oh my gosh, if, we really thank you for taking care of our daughter. If there's ever anything that we could do, you let us know. You need, like we really appreciate how good you were to our daughter. And Naomi was like, well, actually, here's me and my daughter sing. If you could listen to the tape and give us any pointers, any help, any, push us in the right direction, anything along those lines, we appreciate it. So he said that he ain't listened to that tape, child. He went on back to his life and that tape was sitting there. And he said it was like 6 weeks later. Finally, his wife said to him, it takes you 30 minutes to get to work every day. The least you could do is listen to that woman's tape. Like you can, like if you listen to it and it's trash, that's fine. But at the very least, you can listen to that woman's tape. And he said he listened to that tape and almost got into an accident because it was so beautiful. Like the harmony and everything. And of course, they played the song from their little demo tape. And it was beautiful. Like it was beautiful, them singing or what have you. So, okay. So, the other thing that is something that Naomi would do throughout their life was she always exaggerated their story. She always made their story be worse than it really was. She always made it seem like they were like, living in the woods of Kentucky, living out the trunk of their car. She at one point in time, she was telling stories about how they didn't have indoor electricity. They didn't have running water. And the funny thing is they would show these old clips of these interviews and you can literally see the irritation on Winona's face. Like she said that they had to get her media training for her to learn how to stop showing stuff on her face because literally you could see it on her face like, girl, you lying. Like she was looking at her mother like, girl, you lying. She said her mother used to she used to add sauce to her accent, make her accent more country than it really was. She used to talk like, and then they would tell these stories where they talked about how when they first started doing like the radio show, the television show in the morning, their little local show, how they started calling them sisters. They used to call them the soap sisters because Naomi would tell this story about making her own soap, right? Making her own lye soap. So the guy, because I guess he couldn't remember their name, was calling them the soap sisters. And, they were like, can you imagine sitting next to your mother and they're telling you that y'all look like sisters? Like, can you imagine like over and over, like that the mental that somebody is saying, calling y'all sisters? And Naomi loved it because Naomi was, again, I'm saying this and with everything I'm saying with respect, but they loved it because she was very vain and she wanted to be seen as young and beautiful. And it was I think for most women it would be. I shouldn't say she was vain. She was vain, but I shouldn't say that's an example of her being vain. But it's funny how, like she loved it. She ate it up. And Winona would be sitting there like Winona's face just, right. I agree, Chanel. Naomi was full of ambition. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I agree. Winona stayed looking at Naomi crazy and said that she did. She did. She did. Okay, let me go through my notes. Okay. Middle class. Okay. So she grew up middle class. Like Naomi Judd grew up in a very middle class, debutante, going to the country club sort of lifestyle. Now, her grandparents had the stories that she used to tell. Like her grandparents grew up, not as, in the hills with no indoor electricity, whatever, but that is not how she grew up. The name of the show was The Ralph Emery Show. I'm just going through my notes, y'all. Low self-esteem, needed the spotlight. So they start, during this time, they start talking about Naomi needing to have the spotlight, doing stuff on stage that would put the attention on her, dancing provocatively, or, moving her head, like doing little subtle things so the camera would follow her and see what she was going on. And they said that she definitely needed that spotlight. And I put in my notes, Winona was irritated. So these are my notes, right? Around this time, Larry got caught cheating. And Winona and Naomi put his ass out the house, honey. Now, there's a story that was told in her book that they put in the movie that they made about them years ago, where she actually, took a weapon and threatened him with the weapon, and actually powed in his direction, told him get the hell out of her house. Now, Larry said that the story did happen, but he was not elaborating. He said it's true. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So whatever happened, baby, I guess he figured you better get it from the book, because I ain't telling you no more. Okay. So, hey, what's up, lovely 31? We've been here about 40 minutes, but you can catch up. Because they haven't hit their big break yet. We just getting through I'm almost at the end of part 2. We're going to go into part 3. So once Brent Meyer heard the song, he was like, okay, we got to get you guys. So he got them in the studio so that they could make like a real demo. He hooked them up with a manager. He hooked them up with a guitarist by the name of Don Potter, who was like, he became like their guitarist, like he cultivated their sound for them, basically the remainder of their career. And their manager, okay, for those of you who saw it, their manager was a little cringy. Now, I do not think he did anything. I do not feel like he violated them, but he definitely was a chauvinist, right? He definitely was cringy because he was like, they were beautiful and they could sing and they were mother and daughter. And so, they sort of bought into that whole fantasy that men have, the fantasy that men have about a mother and a daughter. And he just started laughing. He was like, now, you knew you was talking to me. You weren't going to get no vanilla interview. You knew it was going to be real. And I was like, I don't know if I would have said that. But okay. They also said that he was the one that used to get on Winona about her weight, probably as much as or more than Naomi. They said Naomi harped on Winona about her weight, but their manager definitely did. So I don't know how I felt about Mr. Woody. I don't know how I felt about Mr. Woody, but okay. I have to say Naomi didn't play with those men. She didn't stick around for the men to constantly do stuff to her. Yeah. So they ended up going to RCA for an audition. And RCA at the time was the biggest record label in country music. They went for their audition and they got signed to RCA. And basically from there, it was like a rocket ship. So would I say they were an overnight success? Absolutely not. Because, they went through it for probably about 10 years. Life was not great. However, once they got signed, like their first single was called Had a Dream. Their first single went to number 17 on the charts, which for a first single for a nobody artist, that's a really great number 17 on the charts. But their second single was Mama He's Crazy, and we know that just blew up. We know Mama He's Crazy is still to this day one of the staples of the Judds. Their first live performance of Mama He's Crazy was to a crowd of 10,000 people at like this festival. Winona said literally right before they went on stage, she told her mama, I want to go home. Like, I don't want to do this, mama. I'm sorry. I don't want to do this. I want to go home. And baby, Naomi told her, shut up and sing. Now, I'm going to be honest. When I heard that, I know Winona was saying, she said, I know mama wanted the best for me, and I know mama was trying to, like look out for me. She said, but she just didn't have the best way of expressing that. But I would be honest with you on this one. Why I would probably say the same thing to your ass, baby. We've been riding around in the backseat of this car, going from gig to gig, living in roach motels, and barely having enough food to eat. And we finally got what we said we wanted. And you standing on this stage right before we getting ready to go out there and talking about something, mama, I want to go home. I would have said the same thing. I would have said, girl, if you don't get your ass up there and sing this song, I'd have said the same thing. Now, maybe that make me a bad mama. I don't know. But I felt like Winona told that story in a way, because she was like, and to this day, I still struggle with anxiety. I get it. But I don't feel like your mama was wrong in that one, because I'd have said the same thing. I'd have been like, if you don't get your ass. But anyway, so then this is where we start seeing the fights. I mean, they always fought, but then this is where we start seeing the fights coming back, right? They're fighting on tour because now they're sharing a small space. They're on this tour bus, and Ashley was saying they were fighting over stuff that really could have been a conversation. They were literally fighting over, because they're in this small space and they're just at each other's throats. Now, if this type of stuff was happening in today's world with TMZ and the blogs and all of that, everybody would know about it. Like somebody would be saying, we heard the Judds screaming at each other. They were fighting backstage. The mama threw a glass at the daughter and it missed her face by 2. Like, we would have all of the tea. But back then we heard about it. Like, it was out there. It wasn't a secret that the two of them used to fight. But I don't think to the degree in which they used to fight. I don't think it was on that level, right? That it was out there. I wrote so that was the end of part 2. So we get into part 3. I kind of already went into part 3, because part 3 goes into I wrote instant success, I wrote bad fights. And the manager pulled him aside and told him, listen, if y'all keep doing this, your career will not last. Like, this is a quick way to end this career, because y'all are selling them this image of this mother-daughter, this beautiful mother-daughter relationship. And then they're going to find out that really, for real, backstage, y'all about to tear each other hair out, like, this ain't going to work. You know what I'm saying? We just ain't going to work. Okay. Exactly, Chanel. In today's world, the drama would have definitely overshadow the talent. Okay, so first record, I had a dream. First record, had a dream. Second record, Mama, he's crazy. They said that around this time, Naomi's storytelling got more and more elaborate. They said every time she did an interview, she would tell these stories and they got more and more elaborate. She would add to it before she would take it away, which of course made it even harder for Winona, because Winona would be sitting there like, I'm not trying to co-sign this bullshit, but you're putting me in a position that I can't say, no, she lying, because she's my mama. Like, what? I can't say she lying, but you put me in a really bad situation that I can't just be like, nah, that ain't true. They said that she was not of course, this is during the 80s, during the time of, respectable politics and family values, especially in country music. But they said that she was very much, had very liberal. They didn't get into details, but they said she had very liberal values. And, remember, she was actually living in a hippie countercultural lifestyle when they moved out to LA. So for a while, she was sort of even in that lifestyle of like that whole hippie movement and all of that. So they said that a lot of people would probably assume that she is, very conservative. Well, she was very conservative, but they said she really was not. This is where I said they told Winona said that she had to have media training to try to control her face, which did not work, child. It did not work. Okay. So we're in part 3. Okay. Hold on. Sometimes I write my notes left to right. And sometimes I wrote them right to left. Added to her accident. Added to her accident. Hold on, y'all. I'm sorry. Added to her accident. Added to her accident. Baby, I don't even know what that note means, but let me just go back here. Okay. Okay. So this is, I kind of already told y'all some of this. I kind of got out of, I'm sorry. So I wrote here, Naomi put, so they got into a really bad argument one night, Naomi and Winona, they got into a really bad argument one night, and Naomi actually put Winona out of the house. And Winona showed up at their manager's house and basically said, listen, I don't have anywhere else to go. My mama done put me out. I don't have nowhere to go. So the manager, of course, let her stay there and made them work it out, made them work through it. I wrote in here where the manager used to get on her about her weight, how her mother used to get on her about her weight. And they talk about how her mom, Naomi's mom, did the same thing to Naomi that Naomi ended up doing to Winona. And I found it interesting because, and maybe this is just me, and I get it, family relationships, but once your mama put you out at 17 years old for getting pregnant, I didn't even know she still talked to her mama until they said that her mother was very hard on her. Like, her mother always made comments on her weight, made comments on her appearance. Her outfit was never appropriate. She was never thin enough. Like, these were the things that her mother got on her about, which, of course, we live what we learn, right? So she turned around and did the exact same thing to Winona, even though she knew that her mother doing it to her drove her crazy, but she turned around and did the same thing to Winona. The difference is, Winona is not her. Like, Winona responded, she pushed back. She didn't just take it. She didn't just say, okay, mama, okay. She was like, stop talking to me about my weight. Like, leave me the hell alone about my weight. Like, it wasn't, it was a clash. I wrote in my notes, manager was creepy. I put a star next to that because it was like, it just made me weird. Like, he makes me weird. I don't know. Winona also talked about how she started, like, you see the clothes that she wears. She wears clothes that come all the way down her arms, clothes that come up to her neck. And it's funny because even in that interview, the outfit she had on in the interview covered her whole body. And she said that she did it as a way to not be seen because she didn't want to be seen as desirable. She didn't want to be seen as sexy. She didn't want male attention. And this is where they revealed that she was violated as a child. And that's where I put 1 and 1 and came up with 2. I was like, so wait a minute. Is the boyfriend that beat up Naomi and violated Naomi, is he the same one? And then when I went back and I rewatched it, I saw where it said, where she said that man climbed on top of her. And I felt like, this is me. Y'all tell me, Chanel, you watch this. So you tell me if I'm interpreting it right or wrong. But I felt like when she said she remembers him climbing on top of her, that she was saying that he violated her. And I feel like it's the same man. Now, I could be wrong, y'all. For those of you that watched it, y'all let me know if y'all feel like I'm putting 20 on 10, but I feel like it's the same man. But y'all let me know what y'all think. As a result, let me hurry up because I think I want something for dinner, and I think they close at 6. So let me hurry up. So I want to go to the little soul food place, and I think they close at 6. So let me hurry up and get out of here. I wish they delivered, but anyway. But she said that Naomi actually did the opposite. Okay, Chanel said I'm correct. Okay, cool. Thank you, boo. So, Naomi did the opposite, though. Naomi used her sexuality as sort of her shield. So whereas Winona wanted to shy away from the attention, Naomi wanted all of the attention. And she, at this point, she was like 37 years old. Because remember, she was 17 when she had Winona. So she wasn't old, and she was beautiful, and she was sexy, and she was thin, and she was all of these wonderful things. And so she welcomed the male attention. And Winona said that men would follow her home. And again, I feel like that was another way that they were very careful to put out there that their mama was out there. Mama was in them streets, right? But they never disparaged their mother on that level. But I feel like if you sort of heard what they were saying, they were letting you know mama was in them streets. Mama was out there, right? It's sad that all three women dealt with. Yes, absolutely, Chanel. They dealt with sexual trauma in different ways. Yes. In her book, she said she was repeatedly touched as a teenager. Oh, wow. See, I want to go read her book now. I added it to my Audible. I definitely will be listening to Winona's book. I want to hear Ashley's book as well. Can you call and put in your order in? They can just pick it up and have to wait in line. The place I'm going, make a long story short, they just opened up a new location. They moved to a bigger facility and they don't have all that stuff set up yet. You used to be able to call in the order and then pick it up. They don't have all that set up yet. So no, I gotta show up. And the people that own it, their church, they're active in their church. So on Sundays it'd be off the hook because the whole church come in, the line be out the door. So that's why I used to like to just call. What's the book called? I'm gonna look it up. Lady D, remind me. I'll look it up before we get off here because I don't know none of the names of their books, but all of them have written books. So I would definitely want to. And Winona said that she doesn't think that Naomi read her book. She said she doesn't think that her mother read her book, so her mother didn't get an insight, and especially towards the end of her life, we'll get to that where their relationship stood. She said, I don't feel like she got an insight or an understanding of why I made the decisions I made and why I did the things that I did because I don't think she read my book. But anyway, I want to read it. So she said it happened more than once. Okay. So she said that, so that was another contrast in them that she wanted to be away from it, whereas the mama was out front with it. Okay. So now we're in 1983. Ashley is now This is where the story really started breaking my heart. I'm going to be honest. Because I told y'all I was going to do this last night. But honestly, y'all, by the time I hadn't finished watching part 4, by the time I got to the end of part 4, I couldn't. I couldn't, y'all. I needed a minute. I needed to process and I needed to release some things because it was a lot. The part 4 is a lot. Part 3 and part 4 is a lot. Part 1 and part 2, it's sprinkle, but part 3 and part 4 got heavy. And this is where it starts getting heavy for me, where Ashley starts telling her story. Basically, Ashley was abandoned. Ashley basically raised herself, and to know that she was an honor roll student in high school, went to college, graduated summa cum laude. She was a cheerleader. She was in a sorority in college. She did all of these great things. And she literally was raising herself. So during this time when the Judds like basically blew up, she was sent to go live with her dad again. And she said that at this time her dad had a drug addiction. She said he was taking hallucinogens. He wasn't home very often. And honestly, it wasn't a great situation. She said that she lived in that apartment essentially by herself until one day she said, now mind you, I'm going to assume, Chanel, correct me if you heard something that I didn't hear. I'm going to assume at this point he was still living in California because they never said that he moved back to Kentucky. But Ashley said that she literally one day she just packed up her car, which means they bought her a car, She packed up her car and drove to her great-grandparents' house in Kentucky. And that's where she lived. That's where she ended up graduating, going to school there and graduating from high school. And I'm listening to her tell this story. And again, I believe it. I'm not saying I think she's not telling the truth. I'm thinking the abandonment that she must have gone through, that she was literally in this apartment by herself, raising herself, that she got in a car and drove across country. Because again, I didn't hear that he was living anywhere different, right? That she drove from California to Kentucky by herself as a teenager to say, I got to be in a better situation. To have that presence of mind to say, I got to get the hell out of here. Because a lot of teenagers will be like, well, shit, I'm living in this apartment. My mama probably, by that time the Judds were making money. So she probably didn't have money issues, right? Her mama was probably, she probably was good with the money. And most teenagers will be like, well, shit, I'm living here. I got this apartment by myself. My daddy come whenever he feel like coming. Like, she could have just as easily turned into a delinquent, right? She could have turned into a drug addict herself. She could have turned out having 20 babies by 20 different, like, there was so many other things that could have happened. And for her to say, this is not it, and pack up her shit and drive herself to a safe space, I got to give her kudos for that. Like, I heard that and I was like, my God. You know what I'm saying? So she said around this time, so she said she was 14 years old. Around this time, well, she had no. The times overlap because she couldn't have been driving when she was 14. But when she was 14 years old, let me say that. When she was 14 years old, there was a modeling contest. She said the guy followed her home. And I'm gonna be honest, when she first started telling this story about the guy following her home, I was like, oh my God, what happened? But she said the guy followed her home, told her that, she looked good. And there was this modeling contest that he thought that she would be great for. So she entered the contest. She said she won every category. She won. And the winner got this contract to do modeling for the summer. So because she was short, they sent her to Japan. Literally, she said she was 14 years old. She was sent to Japan as an unaccompanied minor. She was in an apartment for the summer by herself. And literally the day she got to Japan, when she showed up to the modeling agency, they told her, take off all her clothes and walk around. Like, walk back and forth, take off all your clothes and walk the runway. She said that in that summer, she said she was molested the entire summer by the owner of the modeling agency. And she was sexually assaulted twice by a French man who I guess worked there as well. And when she came home, she wrote about it in her diary. And she said when she came home, her mother had gone through her journal and read her journal diary. And she said her mother climbed into the bed next to her and said, I read your journal. I read about your boyfriend. And Ashley was like, girl, that was not my boyfriend. Like, that man violated me. Like, what did you read in that book that made you think that that was a consensual situation I was telling you about? But she said that fast forward to where Ashley is now, and some things that her mother had to work through, which we're going to get to that in a minute. She said that she understands now that her mom had to process it that way because of her own trauma. Like, her mom could not wrap her mind around the fact that I put my child in that situation where she was violated. Like, she just is like, I can't accept what the truth is because then I gotta take in all of it, right? I gotta process through all of that. And because she had her own sexual trauma that she never processed, it was a lot. And Ashley said, fast forward to where she is now, she said the mom that the person she ended up becoming would have never processed it that way. She would have never looked at it as, oh, that's your boyfriend. She would have been like, who asked we need to kick, right? That's who. But in that moment, that is where she was. That is where she was. I think when I wrote here, added to her accident, I think I meant to say added to her trauma or something. I don't know where accident came from because that was right after the story about Ashley. So that's the only thing I can think of. I don't know where this added to her accident just throws me off. I need Ashley's therapist because she is very much, that guy, and I did not write his name. His name was Todd, but I didn't write his last name down. But Todd, who ended up being like their family counselor, baby, Todd has done some things for this family. Okay. I told you guys all of this. Okay. So as the Judds got more and more popular and the writers paid more and more attention to Winona as far as her voice was concerned, because let's be clear, Winona's voice is impeccable. Okay. Winona Judd's voice is just impeccable. So they said, the more and more popular that the Judds got, and the more and more that the, country writers back then, there was a lot more. Y'all know everything is on a computer now. But back then, there was a lot more magazines, Rolling Stone, and all these different magazines. The more and more they paid attention to Winona, Naomi got nervous because it was almost like, well, what are they going to do with me? Are they eventually going to phase me out? Y'all know, the music industry is famous for breaking up groups, pulling out the lead singer, saying you don't need them. So they said that she was very insecure about what could possibly happen, and what the music, the music industry may basically throw her away. She was very insecure about that. And so she started doing things on stage. She started, like, before the Judds would dress the same color. They would both wear white. They would both wear black. They would both wear the same dress, maybe in a different color. So she started doing things to stand out so that she would be noticed away from Winona. She started wearing dresses that were a lot more attention getting. She would wear red dresses. She would dance around on stage during Winona's parts, and just a lot of things to just bring the attention to, almost so that people would know that they were needed. You know what I'm saying? Both that they know that they were needed, right? Again, they were pressuring her about her weight. They said that the fighting started getting bad again during this time period. They said that they had to cancel multiple shows, not just once or twice, child. He said they had to cancel multiple shows because Winona was hoarse from yelling and screaming with her mama. So their argument was so bad, right? Naomi was scared to be herself because she had told so many stories over the years and didn't think she could stand on her own. Yeah, and they do talk about her being, just her own self-esteem, her knowing she wasn't the stronger singer. I think I skipped over that part in my notes where they said when they first went into the studio, how she struggled to find her harmony. She struggled to find the part where she should come in. Like, it was so clear that Winona's voice was just a stronger voice, that she didn't even know where to fit in a lot of times on the records until they sort of played around with her voice a little bit and she got more comfortable. And then, then she got it. She knew where she got in, where she fit in, kind of thing. Okay. So I think I'm in part 4. Did I write part 4? I didn't write. For the first 3 parts, I wrote part 1, part 2, part 3. But I think I'm in part 4. Because I think part 4 ended around this part. But we're going to keep going. Okay. All right, we're in the right place. I just make sure we're in the right place. Okay. So during this time period, Naomi started to process her trauma a little bit. She wrote a song called Mr. Pain, and the song was about the abuse that she suffered, the assault, because some of this happened in front of the girls. Like, the girls saw some of this violation. During this time period, Ashley was a college. She had graduated from college, and they did a documentary where Ashley was the what's the word I'm looking for? Not moderator, but she was like the person that was speaking, that was putting a documentary together that showed the 2 of them on the road, and Ashley was on the road with them. And this was after she had graduated from college. And so it was really cute to see the footage from that, and see them, joking around together, playing around together, what have you. Around this time, Larry called. Now, they never told us when her and Larry got back in touch, if her and Larry started dating again. Like, they never talked about that part, but they said that Larry called one day. He was on the road. He called her and said, listen, I miss you. I love you. I want to marry you. What's up? Girl, what's up? You know it's me and it's you. and they got married. Now, I wrote here in my notes though. Naomi, see, this is what I say. Naomi was a cagey woman. Naomi got the ultimate revenge, the ultimate get back on Larry. And let me tell you how. Let me tell you what I'm thinking. Y'all tell me if y'all agree or disagree, but let me tell you where my mind is on this, okay? Larry cheated on Naomi. Now Naomi took him back. Naomi loved him and she ended up taking him back. But what Naomi did was she was like, but I'm gonna get the last laugh on this one. One of Naomi's lies, and it was a lie because that ain't what they told us in this documentary. Naomi said when she was talking about him and they, it was an interview and she said this a couple of times. She said, Larry left me. He couldn't handle my success and he left me just as the Judds, just when Mama He's Crazy was released and it went to #1. That's when he left me because he couldn't handle it. Yeah, he just couldn't handle it. And I was like, oh, you cagey broad, you. So now you got the whole world thinking that this man was so insecure in his masculinity that he couldn't deal with your success and he left you just as you were becoming a star. See, that's how I took that. Y'all might not have took it that way, but baby, that's what I heard. Because that is not the story. That man, you and that man had broke up before you even got your record deal, much less when Mama He's Crazy came out. But now the world is thinking, anybody that hears that interview now is thinking, now they're going to be side-eyeing him like, so you left her when she started making more money than you? You so insecure in your masculinity that this was the point that you left her? See, that's the story she told. I heard her say it in the interview. Now, y'all tell me if I'm putting 20 on 10, but see, that's what I heard. Y'all might not have heard that, but that's what I heard. The sisters are close. Miss B. Carter, Winona and Ashley are close. Yeah. I think, and we're almost there. We're gonna get to that point with Winona. I'm explaining to y'all what I think Winona is. But we're gonna get to that. So about a year after her and Larry got married, that is when she was diagnosed with hepatitis. And why they're not close now? I think they are close now, though. I think they are. I mean, maybe I don't know. But I'll tell you my opinion. I'll tell you what my opinion is. She was, and back then, right, they are close now. Oh, okay, they are close now. Yeah. Okay. So back then, well, also too, you got to remember too, Winona went through a lot. She went through the alcoholism. She went through, broken relationships. I don't think it was a personal thing of her not being close to Ashley as much as her just going through her own bullshit. You know what I mean? But I could be wrong. That's just my opinion. Okay, so she was diagnosed with hepatitis, and this is like they said back at this time, hey Ryan, hepatitis was like a death sentence. Like people were literally dying from it. So it wasn't it was a serious thing for her to have to retire at this time, and she stopped touring. So they did a farewell tour. Which they said basically the farewell tour was basically like the #1 grossing tour of that year in country music. You know what I'm saying? And Winona said, and she said something that was so deep. She said that they would always end the tour on what was that song they would sing at the end every night? Oh shoot. I wrote it down, y'all. Whatever the song was, I don't know where I wrote it. I wrote the song down, but it's the song that one of their biggest hits, but it's like a ballad that they would end the tour, the night, every night. And Winona said, it was hepatitis B. Winona said every night she had to listen to her mom sing that song and basically say goodbye. And she said every night she knew they were getting closer and closer to the final goodbye. And remember, Winona deals with anxiety, not also the fact that she's never done anything without her mother. Like music-wise, she had never done anything without her mother. So it was scary for both of them with the ending of this tour. Winona immediately went into a solo career. I don't think there was any question that she would do her own thing solo-wise. So while she started doing her solo career, Naomi started going through, she found she went to every doctor, she saw every specialist, and she got on this very aggressive treatment regimen that she tried. She said that the treatment regimen, it made her hair fall out. It was very hard on her body. And just as she was getting ready to quit, she was like, I can't do this anymore. The doctor was like, no, it's working. But it was an experimental drug. And actually, within a couple of years, she was actually diagnosed as cured. And she's one of the few people, I think they said, in the world that has ever been cured of hepatitis. So she was actually cured of it after going through this very aggressive experimental treatment. Love Can Build a Bridge. Thank you, Nubian. That was it. Love Can Build a Bridge. That is the song they would end every night with. Thank you so much. Ooh, thank you so much. That was it. During this time, now here's where the shit gets tricky. Now, just like my heart broke for Ashley when she was telling her story, this is where my heart breaks for Winona. And I've always loved Winona. If I'm being honest, I have always been partial to Winona. I always loved that redhead and that fuck you attitude that Winona had. Okay, I always loved it. Naomi writes her book. It's supposed to be her autobiography. But there was a particular writer who said, a book reviewer who read the book and said, this shit don't make no sense. This shit ain't adding up. The story ain't storying. A plus B is not equaling C. And she started questioning some of the stuff that was in the book, like her talking about how they grew up in the country hills of Kentucky and her ass was really a debutante, right? And she said, and in the book, she talks about Winona's father, but she doesn't call him by name. And that like set off her spidey senses like, something ain't right. Something's not right. Now, her version of the story, and I think there's a couple of paragraphs missing in her version. I'm talking about the writer, the book review woman. There's a couple of paragraphs missing in her story because she said that Michael Salmonella, Naomi's ex-husband, father of her children, allegedly called her and said, I am not Winona's daddy, and I want to give you the exclusive interview. Now, I think it's more to that story because why out of all of the writers in the United States did he call you? Were you poking around? Had you called some people? And he was like, let me let this. So he called her and said, listen, I'm ready to give you the exclusive because I am not Winona Judd's daddy. And I'm ready to tell it. And she was like, have you told Winona that you're not her daddy? And he said, no. I ain't told her. I ain't talked. I ain't said shit. She said, well, I think you need to tell Winona before you do this interview because I would not feel comfortable with her finding out that way. You need to tell her. So they got back to Naomi and told Naomi, you need to let Y know because this story about to break. Like, if I don't do the interview, somebody's going to do the interview. This story is about to break. You need to tell Winona. Ashley said she found out and she basically told her mama, listen, either you tell her or I'm telling her. But she's going to find out that he ain't her daddy. Either you going to tell her or I'm going to tell her. So they made an appointment to go to family therapy, and Naomi was supposed to tell Winona while they were in family therapy. Baby, Ashley said her mama got the hemming and hawing, and two-stepping and sidestepping, and her mama wasn't getting to it. And Ashley said, I couldn't hold it no longer. And I said it. I just told her, I said, sister, Michael ain't your daddy. Because she said mama was taking too long to get to it. She was doing all of this, and I ain't had the patience for it. It was too much. It was too much left, and it was too much right. I ain't had the patience. She was doing too much. So I had to say it. I had to put it out. I had to tell it. Winona was like, it actually made sense. She said, because I knew that Michael did not like me. And I always felt like the outsider. I never felt like I was a part of that family dynamic. And I knew that man did not like me, much less love me as his daughter. So she said, I started putting the pieces together in my head, and it all started to make sense. Okay. But here's the sad. Oh, I'm trying to run ahead of my notes. Hold on. I wrote a book that. Okay. Here's the sad part, though, and this was the even more heartbreaking part to this story. So come to find out, the man who is really Winona's father is a man by the name of Charlie Jordan. First of all, if you see pictures of Charlie Jordan as a teenager, when he was in high school, baby, he looked just like Winona. I mean, when I say spit him out, I mean, he spit her out. Like, Winona looked just like her daddy, I should say. Looked just like him. So that's number one. Number two, Naomi had always made the story sound like it was like this one night stand. I was in so much grief over my brother dying of cancer. I called this guy over who liked me. And, he didn't violate me, but, it wasn't. Baby, come to find out, Charlie Jordan was her boyfriend. She had dated him. Baby, she went to the prom they got the prom pictures. She went to prom with Charlie Jordan. Now, Michael Salmonella did like her. And see, this is why, again, I say they were very careful about how they talked about their mama. But I'm going to just say it because she's not my mama. And I don't mean no disrespect, but baby, I just got to tell it. Okay, I got to tell it to y'all. She was dating both of those men at the same time because she went to the prom with both of them. She went to Charlie's prom with him, and the next year she went to Michael's prom with him. Okay, she was dating both of those men. And the fact that when she got pregnant, she told Charlie she was pregnant. She told Charlie she was pregnant, and baby Charlie, it's not funny. I'm sorry, it's not funny. Baby, she told Charlie she was pregnant. Charlie went and joined the army. Charlie said, I ain't got time for this shit. Charlie went and joined the army. She knew exactly who the baby daddy was. But then that's when her mama put her out the house. Remember I told y'all she came home from school and her mama had locked them, changed them locks and put her ass out the house. So when she got home from school and her mama was like, I can't have no pregnant girl up in my house. And Charlie had gone to the military. She said, well, that boy Michael keep asking me to marry him. Let me go on over here to Michael. And she went over to Michael's house and told Michael she was pregnant and the baby was his. And that's when she moved into Michael's house and they got married. Now listen, I'm not the smartest person in the world. I promise y'all I'm not. But here's what I do know. In order for both of those men to believe that they was the father of that baby, that means that both of those men had slept with her. Can we agree to that? Can we agree? Can we agree that in order for both of those men to think that they was the father of that baby, both of those men had slept with her? Can we agree with that? And had slept with her in close enough proximity to think they was the daddy? Michael believed he was the father of that child until Winona was like 2 or 3 years old. Because he said in the interview one day he was watching Winona play on the floor and he realized that that's just not his baby. Hold on, y'all. It's getting hot. I got to turn the air conditioner on. Give me a second. Oh, hold on. Oh, shit. Oh, shut up. You said how he realized by watching her play. I don't know. Maybe it was something she did. Maybe it was something she said. Maybe it was that red hair. Like, I don't know what it was. But he said that one day he was sitting there and he just realized that that is not my baby. And then one of her childhood friends was like, yeah, everybody knew she was dating Charlie because she would use me as an excuse because her mama didn't like Charlie. Her mama didn't give her permission to date Charlie, so she would use me as an excuse to go spend time with Charlie. We would meet at the park and all of that. She said that wasn't no one night stand. They was together. Here's where it got even sadder. Winona needed time to process. Winona said that she needed time to process the situation. It was a lot for her to take in. She still had her career going on. I do not know at what point of her addiction all of this happened in between her food addiction, her alcoholism, man issues, because, you know, Winona didn't have the best luck with men early on in her career. She's been married to her current husband now for over 10 years, but, you know, it took a minute for them to get there. And she said by the time she was ready to meet him, baby, he died. So she never met her biological father. I think that's what it was too, Marnie. I think Michael knew who Charlie was, and one day he looked at Winona and was like, she looked like Charlie. She don't look like me. I think that's really what it was. So yeah, I felt so bad because I was like, can you imagine that when you were finally ready to sit down and talk to this man, he died? And they said when they cleaned out his belongings, he had all of this Judds paraphernalia. He had posters. He had like memorabilia from, like, you could tell he had went to concerts and stuff. So he had been following their career. But she said that he was apprehensive about showing up at that point because then, you know, she's like, he didn't know how he would be received. Like, oh, you're the father that abandoned me, and here you come now that I'm a star. You know, it was a lot in that. But she said that, and I'm gonna get to Winona in a second. I'm almost there, y'all. I know I keep saying that, but we're almost at the end. Oh, that happened to you? Oh no. Oh wow. I'm sorry to hear that. But she said that she has been able to build a really good relationship with her her half brother. So she said that she's really learned about her dad, and she's really, you know, I felt like she's at peace with the situation, but she's been able to build a relationship with her half brother. And I think that has helped out a lot for her. Again, I'm going to get to Winona in a minute because I have a lot to say about Winona and her process. Okay. Around this time, Ashley's career also was taking off. You guys know that at one point in time, Ashley Judd was the it girl in Hollywood. She was the it girl in Hollywood. She was in all of these different, you know, top films. You know, she was the it girl at one time. Okay, that's all the stuff. Okay. All right, we almost done. We are in part 4 now. So we're in the last part. Yeah, we almost done. We only have 1, 2. We only have 3.5 pages of notes left. We almost done. Okay. They said that Naomi carried a lot of guilt from the lie. Winona used food and alcohol to cope. She was also dealing with financial issues at this time. Her first album did really well. Her second album did not do as well. Her third album did even less than that. But she definitely was a big spender. They said that she used to buy, cars and clothes, all the things that rich people do when they, but she was out of control at that time. Like I said, she was dealing with a lot of, that's when, she was dealing with a lot of that. And that's why I really want to read her book so I can see the timeline. But I remember the headlines. I believe she was even in a DUI or two at one point in time. Like, she had a lot going on. So all of these things were happening all around the same time. In 1994, at the Super Bowl, Winona was on, I guess she did the Super Bowl. I didn't know she did the Super Bowl. But in 1994, she performed at the Super Bowl, and that is when she invited Naomi back on stage. And from there, Naomi started going back on the road. It wasn't constant. She didn't tour like every single tour date, but she would pop in and pop out. Sometimes they would do tours, sometimes, and then she would go home. So she went back on the road for the most part, and the Judds were sort of back at that time. But Naomi was still nagging. She, no matter what Winona did, she was like, you can do better. When Winona said her mother sent her a fax, girl, this is back in the day. When her album wasn't doing well, her mom would send her a fax and was like, you can do better. Get on it. Eventually, Winona decided she needed help. And so she checked herself into a facility for all addictions. It's called an all addiction rehab. And she said that it didn't matter what your addiction was. You were addicted to something and you were in a common space with people. And of course, with no judgment. And she said that she checked herself into that. And she was there for a while. She was there for almost 2 months. And it was all day. It was an all day thing from like 8 in the morning to, 4 or 5 in the afternoon. Very intensive, very intentional. This is where they meet the guy, Todd, their family counselor, who is still very much a part of their life to this day. Ashley said that there's a part of the process towards the end where they invite the family to come in, and the family can be a part of the healing for the patient. So Winona invited her mom, so they could process through the things they needed to process through as a family. Ashley said she walked up in there. She said, girl, and I walked up in there. She was very nice about it, but basically she was like, I walked up in there like a diva. I walked up in there like, I don't know what you need me for. I don't know why I'm here. Do you know who I am? I am Ashley motherfucking Judd. Like, what is all this going on? What is all this? And she said by the end of the day, they basically had an intervention with her. And they were like, girl, you so angry. We felt your anger when you walked in the door. Like, we felt your energy coming in the door. Do you want to talk about what you got going on? Like, do you want to talk about your trauma? Because we felt it when you got here. We felt the trauma. And so Ashley said that started her process, started her therapy, where she started opening up and she started working through what she had to work through. It was around that time where she was diagnosed with depression. I'm sorry. Nope. I skipped ahead. That ain't her. Naomi also was there, and they said that Naomi was scared to let go, though. Naomi was scared to let go. She was scared to really put all of her trauma out there. And she wasn't comfortable. She didn't feel safe enough in that space to put it all out. It was around this time when Naomi was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. She also started having panic attacks, but she told Larry to not tell the kids. So Ashley and Winona did not know at first. They did not immediately know of all of the struggles that Naomi was having. So this is, in my opinion, this is sort of the beginning of the end for Naomi's mental health. I think she always dealt with certain mental health issues, but she dealt with them in her way. But I think now and here's where I think, and I'm no therapist, but this is my opinion, you guys. I am no therapist. But here's what I think. I feel like the healthier and healthier Winona and Ashley got mentally, the sicker and sicker Naomi got mentally. Does that make sense? Because it sounds like as soon as Winona was in a good space, was processing through her trauma, processing through her addiction, and probably setting boundaries. We're going to get to that in a minute. Probably setting some boundaries, not allowing Naomi to manipulate, not allowing Naomi to do things that she had always allowed her to do. Same thing with Ashley. When Ashley started processing through her trauma, processing through what she had gone through her childhood, I believe that's when Naomi got sicker and sicker. Because she did carry a lot of guilt, right? At one point in Naomi's therapy, she did actually get to a point that makes a lot of sense coming from a mental health. Okay, thank you, sweet pea. Thank you, boo. When Ashley wrote her book and talked about her childhood, they said that Naomi had a breakdown, but she had to admit that it was all true. She was like, this is all true. She had to admit that Naomi, you know what? I changed my mind. I don't want the soul food, y'all. I want to go to Sardi's. I think that's what I want for dinner. And Sardi's will deliver and they stay open later. Cause I feel like at some point this week I'm probably gonna get, cause that place is close to my job. I feel like at some point this week we're gonna probably go get soul food before the week is over from work. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go to Sardi's. Anyway, if you know, you know. Okay. So Naomi did start therapy and she did have a breakthrough in therapy where she was able to tap into a lot of her suppressed memories. And she was able to go through therapy and she remembered being violated as a child by her uncle Charlie, her grandmother's brother. She remembers laying on the bed. She remembers him coming into the room. She said, I knew it wasn't my dad. And she remembers him getting on the bed and violating her. What she also found out in going through this process and processing through her trauma, what she also found out was that the family knew that there were men in the family that were predators and they didn't protect the girls. And her aunt, I believe her name was Patsy, started with a P, child. She was also violated by the Uncle Charlie. And when Naomi went to try to talk to her and try to be like, you know, like this happened to me, it happened to you too, I guess to talk to the aunt, baby, they said the aunt would not talk to her. The aunt said it didn't happen. I don't know what you're talking about. And the aunt wouldn't talk to her, which also put Naomi in a bad space because it's like, well, damn, like I found out that my family knew that these men were predators. They didn't protect us. And now the one person that I know I have a shared experience with won't talk to me. And again, remembering that woman had her own process. She was violated as well, allegedly, and she had her own process. And maybe she hadn't gotten to a point where she could talk about it. So I'm not going to look bad on her. I'm not going to feel bad about, I'm not going to make her a bad guy that she wouldn't talk to Naomi because she was probably processing through her own shit. You know what I'm saying? The aunt was her mother's sister. Okay, yeah. Okay, it was her okay, I said grandmother's sister. It was her mother's sister. My fault. I thought it was no, it was her mother's sister. No, you're right. You're right. The Uncle Charlie was the grandmother's. Uncle Charlie was the grandmother's brother. But you're right. The aunt is her mother's sister. Yes, it was her mother's sister. Yes. So around this time, the Judds were going to go on another tour. And Oprah, this was when Oprah still owned, well, when she still, I guess, had controlling on in the OWN network. This is when Oprah was still running shit at the OWN network. She decided that she wanted to do like a documentary of this tour, like a behind the scenes and all of this of the tour. And this just again goes back to Naomi. Okay, let me just tell the story. Yeah, OWN wanted to record, so they were doing a final tour. That's what it was going to be, the final retirement tour. Like no more coming out of retirement. No more. This is it. Yeah, so their great uncle, right? At some point during this behind the scenes documentary that they were putting together for the OWN network, Naomi decides that this is a good time for her to tell Winona about her own experience as a child, because she hadn't told her kids about Uncle Charlie. So she decided that this was going to be when and how she was going to tell Winona about Uncle Charlie. And it's all recorded because remember, they're doing this behind the scenes situation for OWN. So they show the clip of it. You see Winona sitting down. You see, Naomi. You watch the Judds docuseries on OWN. Okay, so Marnie, you'll remember this scene. She sits her down and she tells her about her trauma. She tells her about Uncle Charlie and what happened, and she tells like the whole story. And Winona is sitting there like, are we really doing this on camera? Like, and she was like, I didn't know what she wanted from me. Like, I didn't know what response she wanted from me. She said, and I was angry that she chose to do this on camera. Her thing was, she was like, it's her story. She could tell it. She said, but the thing about when you're filming a television show, right? When you're filming a show, she said, there are like 30 other people in the room, from production assistants and this, and this, all these different cameras and stuff. So she's like, I'm literally sitting here for the first time. I'm hearing the story of my mother who was violated as a child by my uncle, like my great uncle. Like, what did you want from me in that moment? And that was the beginning of the end of their relationship. Winona said that she said she was very angry that it was on camera. And for the rest of that, they did the tour, they did the whole thingamaboo, they finished it out. But she said their relationship never recovered from that. That was sort of the beginning of the end of their closeness, right? And from that point forward into the end of Naomi's life, Winona kept her mother at an arm's length. Like, yes, that's my mama. Yes, I love her, but she over there. She set her boundaries. And she was like, I no longer am going to allow her to put me in a position to put me in that situation. Because I had my own trauma. Ashley has her own trauma. It was never a problem with us talking about the trauma. It was how she chose to do it. And in my mind, it was just one more manipulation. It was just one more way for her to control me. And for her to do it for the sake of television, like, no, like, don't put me in that space. It did the exact opposite for her and Ashley. It actually brought her and Ashley closer together. Because then they were able to process and talk about what really happened to Ashley. And that's why she said that the person her mom ended up becoming is not the same woman that thought that man was her boyfriend, right? They were able to talk about the trauma and work through it. And so her and Ashley actually became closer, whereas her and Winona became very separate. In 1996, that is also when Ashley decided to go public. She shared. I'm sorry, y'all. This thing is getting blurry. She shared the story with her mom about Harvey Weinstein. She said during filming of Kiss the Girls in 1996, she's told her story. She's been very public about her experience with Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein violated her. She said she was filming the movie. She went to have a meeting with him at the Beverly Hotel, whatever hotel in Beverly Hills. And she thought that they were going to be meeting in like a conference room. When she got there, they took her up to his hotel room where she was violated. And she said she eventually was able to get out of there. And she was very vocal. She told her story. Actually, and as you know, her career from that point forward, her career definitely took a nosedive. She was definitely persona non grata in Hollywood. We ain't gonna pretend like it didn't affect her career, because it absolutely did. We down to the end, y'all. We at the end. We on the last page of notes, y'all. Winona, around this time, Winona got married. And she ain't invite none of them to the damn wedding, child. Winona got married to the man she's still married to, a man by that, his name is Cactus. I'm sure that's not what his mama named him, but that's what he goes by, as Cactus. And Naomi said she had to find out about it through the news. She didn't even know she was getting married. She found out about it through the news. Now, I can tell by the way Larry, Naomi's husband, talked about Cactus. They don't like Cactus. They do not like that man, and I'm sure they blame him for the reason why Winona is not, fucking with the family. They don't like him. They don't like him. Okay? Now, Winona said once he came on, she not only did they get married, but he also became her manager, her husband, all of the things. And then he was like her musical director or whatever, and he started changing the direction of her music. It got to be a little more rock and roll, a little harder, and he also changed up the way some of the songs were. Like some of their big Love Can Build a Bridge, like Winona changed up how she sings the song now. She's taking out her mother's harmonies, you know what I'm saying? And they said that really hurt Winona. But the other side is they said, well, they also understand she was singing that song the same way for 20 years. She may want to just change it up. But you could definitely tell they don't like that man. Now, I did pull an article. We can read it in a minute. I pulled an article on the two of them, but they don't like him. Naomi was hurt by the musical change. And again, she fell into a deeper depression, and her anxiety got worse during this time as well. They said that in her quest for looking for the cure, she went to doctors, and she was looking for a pill that would cure her. And then she also, during this time, Naomi became addicted to they said the name of the medicine, but one of her pills. She became addicted to it. She also spoke, she spent time in the psych ward during this time period. And she also spoke about suicidal ideations. Now, again, that's when she wrote her book about depression. During this time, she also wrote her book about depression. And one of the things that she said was, and they played an interview where she said that she talked about jumping off of a bridge and just ending everything. And I do remember that Naomi had been nitpicking Winona during the entire documentary. She dropped that bomb on camera. It looked like Naomi was trying to make everything about her. Yeah. I now I kind of want to go back and watch that too. But yeah. So in those interviews, you can definitely see, like in those interviews when she was promoting her book, you could see she was definitely going through a lot. In 2021, they announced a Judds tour. They also were being inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2022. And when they put that tour, Naomi was actually worried about whether Winona would even show up to the induction to the Rock and Roll to the Country Hall of Fame. She was like, they said they didn't even, because that is the point. They were at that point in their relationship that she didn't even know whether she was going to show up and come to the induction. They were supposed to go on a tour in 2022. At the CMAs in 2022 is where they made their last performance. I really wish that I could show y'all that clip. But if y'all find it on YouTube, I don't know if it's on YouTube or not, but let me see if it's on YouTube. But baby, you can see in that clip, Naomi was not there. Baby, Naomi was not there. Let me see. The Judds 2022. See, here you go right here, CMA performance. Hold on. People probably was Googling it because of the documentary, child. Let me see. Let me turn the music. I ain't gonna play the music because y'all know YouTube will get you. I ain't gonna play the music. They saying love can build a bridge. Let me see. I'm trying to get to the point where you can see Naomi. Hold on. It's on Tubi. It's on YouTube too. I'm on YouTube right now. The CMA channel on YouTube. This ain't the one I'm looking for. Nope. This is not the one I'm looking for. Nope. This is not the one I'm looking for. Hold on, y'all. Because I remember what her hair looked like, and that is not what her hair looked like. I might need to go to Tubi because this is not the one I'm looking for. I damn sure ain't about to get on Tubi, but okay, hold on. Let me see if I can find another one. This is it right here, but this is just a short. Okay, hold on. I'm going to let y'all look at this. This is just a short of it, but you can see, baby, Naomi is not with us. Naomi is not with us. Look at this. Y'all can't hear it, but because I'm not going to play it, but you could just see how they're looking at each other. Oh, Lord, you can see the reflection on my TV. Hold on. She don't look like she with us. And at that point, like her husband said, baby, everybody knew her ass couldn't go on no tour. Like, even if she hadn't done what she did, baby, she was not ready to go on nobody's tour. Okay. So, all right. So this is where it gets bad. And I'm going to be very, 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 yes, the mother had a drug problem. She got addicted to her pills, her mental illness pills. So the day before, they were supposed to be inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. Her and Ashley she said that Ashley was in town because Ashley said, I flew back for the induction. So she was in town. So maybe they live in Nashville. Maybe they don't live in Kentucky. Maybe they live in Nashville because I'm sure that the ceremony was going to take place in Nashville, even though Nashville and Kentucky right there. But anyway. Now, mind you, Winona and her mama live right down the street from each other. Like, they live in the same neighborhood. But they do not see each other. But they lived in the same neighborhood. So Ashley said, I guess, I'm assuming Ashley was either staying like at an Airbnb or at a hotel or whatever. She said that they hung out the day before. And she said that her mom sent her a text that said, I need help. Please come. So Ashley said she took off. She ran over there. And she said her mother was walking around. She was pacing. She couldn't calm down. Her anxiety was through the roof. And she was talking about ending her life. She said Ashley called the therapist. She called Dr. Todd, told him, we need you. Can you please get here? Mama is over here. Mama is over there. Can you please? Yeah, Quake. Matlock is on in the background. Yep. She said, we need you. So he comes to the house and they get her to calm down. You know, they get her to calm down. And like I said, she was talking about ending her life, not being here. And that's why I said I felt like in her mind it was complete, because that was literally the day before she had accomplished the thing she wanted to accomplish in her life. And she was basically saying, like, I don't need to be here. Like, I did it. I did what I said I was going to do. We going into the Country Hall of Fame. I'm good. Ashley said that her mother went upstairs to go to bed or to take a nap or what have you. I'm going to assume, and Chanel, if you're still here and I missed it, you let me know. But I'm going to assume she heard the shot. Because that is how her mother did it. Her mother did it through gunshot. And she went upstairs and she found that her mother, she said, I saw where my mom had harmed herself. Of course, she called 911. She called the doctor. And her mother was not gone yet, though. And she said that she held her mother until the ambulance came, and she told her mother it was okay. You're not in pain anymore. It's okay to let go. And she said, we breathed together. Y'all, that thing tore me up. Baby, that thing tore me up last night. Do you hear me? I'm being very... Okay, she did say she heard... She had to have. Because the way she described it, there's no way you would just get up and just run upstairs unless she heard it. And then when they said it was a gunshot, I said, yeah, she had to have heard the shot. The sad thing is her husband was out of the country at the time. He was out of the country because he still does music. So he was out of the country with, I guess, his band. Yeah. Can I say something? So this is what I'm going to say about Winona. Throughout this whole documentary, Winona seemed like she was at so much peace. She seemed like she was at so much peace. And I honestly feel like, remember I've told you guys in the past that family does not mean you have to allow their toxicity to be in you. Remember I told y'all that? And I feel like that's where Winona got to in her life. Like, I love my mom, and I'm going to always love my mom. But for my own mental health, I had to put boundaries around our relationship. And because I chose to put those boundaries around our relationship, it does not mean I loved her any less. It does not mean I didn't cry, I didn't hurt any less when she was gone. It doesn't even mean I didn't understand her trauma. It doesn't mean I didn't understand her mental illness. It doesn't mean any of that. But what it means is, for my whole life, in order for me to heal, these are the things that I had to do. And that's why I say I feel like that once Winona went through therapy and really did the work, I honestly feel like that is why she had to separate from her mom. And that's why she could live down the street from her mama but rarely see her. That's why she rarely talked to her mother. And throughout that documentary, Winona did, at least they didn't show it. Winona didn't go in that house. When they would show scenes of the house that Naomi lived in, because I told, for those of you who had just coming in at the beginning, they started the documentary off showing the house because they're selling it. They already sold it. The house was empty. They had sold the house and they were going through a lot of her old things. That's where they found a lot of the old recordings and pictures and stuff like that. Winona didn't go in that house. There was only one scene where you saw the three of them together, Winona, Ashley, and Larry together, and they were on this sun porch talking. And I don't think that was the same house. I don't think that was the house that was empty because it had furniture and stuff. So they must have been either at Winona's house, or maybe Ashley has a house there, or I think Ashley might have a house there too. Maybe they were at Ashley's house, but baby, they were not at that house where Naomi lived. And if y'all saw it, I must have missed it. But I feel like every time we saw Winona, she was either, I guess, at her house. And we did see her and Ashley, but there was only one scene where we saw the three of them together. And I don't think she has any issue with Larry. Maybe not. Because Larry clearly don't like her husband. So there may have been some things said over the years. There may have been some problems over the years. Some button of the heads. Maybe. I don't know. But baby, that is what I got from Winona. And I don't feel like Winona deals with any guilt. I don't think she deals with any, shoulda, coulda, wouldas, because I think that she 100% felt like I gotta save myself. And in a way that I can save myself in this relationship, this codependent, toxic relationship, one of us gotta go. And I don't mean go from earth. I mean go like we gotta separate. Now, I did find this article. I'm gonna read it real quick, y'all, and we're gonna get ready to get out of here. I did because I was curious. That's why I said I need to go back now and go listen to Winona's book. But this was an article written in People magazine in 2024 about Winona. It says, "Who is Winona Judd's husband?" All about Cactus Moser. So Winona, Judd, and Cactus Moser's love story was decades in the making. After meeting in 1989, they went their separate ways for 20 years before reconnected in 2009 and getting married in 2012. "He is the most tough and tender man I've ever been with that I trust," Judd told People in a cover story a few months after her mother's death in 2022. "We are so connected. It's crazy how connected we are. I trust him with my life, which I can't say that about men in my life." It says this is the third marriage for Judd, who was previously married to D.R. Roach and Arch Kelly III, who she shares 2 children with Arch Kelly, Grace and Elijah. And Moser has 3 children. Them together is kind of a fun thing to watch. Sunshine, that's one of her. Okay, so one of his children's name is Sunshine. Said, oh, wait a minute. She did a documentary, Winona Judd Between Hell and Hallelujah. Now I gotta go watch that. I'm gonna go watch that, y'all. Winona Judd Between Hell and Hallelujah. That's on Paramount Plus. I'm gonna have to go look at that. They're the couple that everybody wants to be. The couple is still often seen out and about together, including when they attended the Kentucky Derby in 2024, where Moser played the drums while Judd performed the national anthem. Okay, child, it goes on this story. Okay, they met on tour. 1989 Highway 101. Country music mother and daughter duo named Judds. As they embarked on the tour, Moser hit it off. It never got serious. Judd went on to marry her first husband, with whom she shares 2 children. Following the split, she married her second husband. They reconnected in 2009. It wasn't until he moved to Tennessee that things changed for the couple. "When I moved here, I kept my horses at her place while I built fences," he told the music outlet. "There was a long gap, but in 2009, I'm playing at Pluckett's for the fun classic rock gigs. Y comes in walking with Naomi, so we got together and it went on a couple of dates. They got engaged in 2011 on Christmas Eve. The duo had a 6-month engagement before saying I do at Judd's house." Yeah, she lives in Tennessee. So both of them must live in Tennessee then. It was an intimate ceremony, which included the pair's 5 children. Judd's mother did not attend. Yeah, they weren't invited. They didn't attend because they weren't invited. Oh, no. He was in a motorcycle accident shortly after marrying Judd, which caused him to lose his leg. Oh, wow. Maybe that was the accident I had in my notes. 2 months after tying the knot, the couple were out of their separate motorcycle before a show in South Dakota. When Moser collided with oncoming traffic, the accident caused them to have his left leg amputated above the knee and required surgery on his hand. Oh. Okay. It says he frequently collaborates with his wife. I'm gonna have to go watch her documentary now. What did I say it was called? Hold on. Between Hallelujah and Hell. Is that what it was called? Between Hallelujah and Hell? If I just type in Winona Judd, and it's on Paramount Plus. So if you have Paramount Plus, you can go watch. I'm gonna go watch that one too. Winona's daughter, great. Yeah, I remember her daughter had her daughter have a drug habit. She just got out of jail. Yeah, listen, Winona went through some shit. I don't remember all of the details now because that was before I was like, but I remember her being arrested a few times herself. I remember her having DUIs. She went through some shit. That's why I said I think that in her process of getting healthy for herself, she had to set boundaries. And I think maybe her relationship with her mother was a trigger for her addiction. Like, I don't know. Yeah. She stole a church van down near She stole the church van. With that being said, I'm about to I'm gonna get up out of here. Child, that was 2 hours. I did not know that was gonna take me 2 hours. I want to do a tribe meeting over on the main channel because I want to talk about Cardi B. I want to talk about Britt Edie. So let me go figure out my dinner situation. What time is it? 4:43. Who is 5 o'clock? Maybe 6:30. We could do a tribe meeting. And of course, y'all know the Real Housewives of Atlanta tonight at 9:30-ish. So let me go figure out because the place I think I'm gonna go to Sardis and they will deliver to my house. So if they deliver to my house, then I may go ahead and set up the tribe meeting and stuff. Yeah, I do want to do because we haven't done a tribe meeting. I definitely want to get into this Cardi B situation and Britt Edie husband being sued and child. Thank y'all for coming through. So meet me on the other side, y'all. Meet me on the other side about 6:30, okay? All right. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.